one of the biggest areas that really is untapped right now is thinking about how do we enable our internal team members to be more productive. We've got lots of people here at this, we call it the store support center, basically our home office, helping try and make decisions to empower the front line and the people that are running the stores.
Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert's Perspective. Joining us today, we have Rick Lockton. Welcome, Rick.
Nice feeling.
Awesome. Well, we've all seen, and for those that don't know, Rick's at Tractor Supply. He was previously at Ashley Furniture and Walmart. I always like to start off by learning a bit more about your career journey. So, Rick, why don't you walk us through your career journey and how you ended up in your position at Tractor Supply?
Yeah. Way back in the day, I started as like a computer science major. I was kind of a tech nerd in high school. My parents said that sounds fun and realized I was not meant to do math my entire college career. So I switched to the business school, spent the first few years of my career in management consulting. So I was in Big Four, working in a variety of different industries, mostly in kind of tech advisory space. But industries I was in just were not like super engaging, appealing to me. I was doing like telecom and financial services, and I just didn't really feel like I could relate to the work that we were doing or advising our customers on. And so I really wanted to get into something that was more consumer facing. So I ended up going back to business school, ended up at Walmart and spent 10 years there in all different parts of the organization. So it was super fun to be sort of a general manager and get to learn all different parts of retail. Towards my tail end, we were really starting to take off from an e-com standpoint. And I felt like I was never going to actually get to lead an e-commerce team at Walmart because it was such a big place. And so when I left, I had the opportunity to do that at Ashley Furniture and then shortly after here at Tractor Supply. So it's been a really fun ride.
Yeah. And Rick, maybe walk us through, obviously you're at Walmart for a long time. Talk us through kind of the digital philosophies of like the Walmarts of the world and how that's different from some of the other retailers like the Ashley Furnitures and the Tractor Supplies of the world. Curious how you see like a large contract versus build by partner and how you folks kind of think of the tech stack.
Yeah, I mean, I was at Walmart for a pretty pivotal time. And so I got to see the evolution of that thinking while I was there. And probably similar to most retailers, like I started in 2010. It was just another sales channel. I think I remember leadership at the time saying like, hey, e-commerce is probably only going to be like 5% of total company sales. Like we need to play there, but it's not really going to be how we go to business. And I think it was probably in like 2014, 2015, where it became like, no, this is how the customer is shopping now. We have to do this. We don't really know what the online penetration will be at some point, but we've got to lead here. And then I think over time, they started to realize we were building capabilities and assets that were applicable beyond just the customer experience, things that you could market and sell to our vendors like retail media. It had made massive investments in supply chains. So now you can start fulfilling orders for third-party sellers and things like this. So it was really fascinating to watch it more from just like a small channel that could drive sales to really a part of how the company operates and is creating new revenue streams outside of like just selling products to customers. And so obviously Ashley was a much smaller place, Tractor Supply as well. I'd say both companies were on similar journeys, right? Like step one, you got to really nail it on just the core e-commerce business and really integrating that shopping experience with a customer. And then as that business starts to grow, I think both companies were starting to make decisions of like, okay, what else could this be? And is this where I want to invest my limited resources and dollars? Or are there other things more core to my business that just make more sense strategically?
Yeah. And obviously Tractor Supply, Ashley, and Walmart, they all have unique client bases. How do you approach like learning the client base and how that kind of feeds back into the strategy that you bring to the team?
That's a great question. Yeah, Walmart serves everyone in America, basically. And so that one was pretty easy. And their strategy is very holistic in nature. Tractor Supply is fun in kind of a very different way. We're a lifestyle retailer. So we say we really serve customers who live the life out here lifestyle. And so if you look at kind of the makeup of where we put our stores and the demographics of customers that are in them, most of them own a larger property. So like a couple acres to 20 or so acres. Many of them have animals, sometimes pets, sometimes big animals like horses, farm animals, things like that. They live kind of a DIY lifestyle in some regards. So they're doing projects around the property. They're having fun, things like that. And so we really tailor our assortment and our business strategy around that lifestyle and enabling that for the customer, which is super fun because it allows you to be more narrow in scope and very deep in terms of meeting their needs. I think you'll see like through most of our prioritization and our strategies, it really orients around that customer and understanding like what would help us differentiate we don't have all of the investments and assets that some of the bigger companies have. So we've got to find unique ways to attract customers to differentiate on the market other than just price. And so having that focus really helps us.
I love it. And it sounds like, at least for your client base as well, the brick and mortar is really important, kind of larger items. Like you mentioned, a bigger real estate, they're buying a lot of things. Maybe talk to us about your kind of, I think you coined it digital experiences, where it's a bit of in store, a bit of digital. Yeah, like talk to us a bit about that strategy from a high level. How do you know it's working? What are kind of some of the KPIs? And how is that potentially something that's like unique for you guys, or at least your client segments?
I'll say a couple of things. Like from an e-com standpoint, about 80% of my sales today are picked up at the store. So we're very much an extension of the store. We believe the online experience drives convenience and simplicity for a customer, so they don't have to wait in line at a store, hunt through a store to find the items they're looking for. And if you step back and say kind of strategically, how do we differentiate? I mentioned we really differentiate on assortment for a very unique set of categories that many other retailers don't play in. And then we have two other areas that we would say like our secret sauce and why customers come to Tractor Supply. The first one is what we call legendary service. And so if you compare us to other big box retailers, very meaningful and different experiences you'll have in our stores that we think are a competitive differentiator. When you walk in, you get a genuine, like authentic greeting. There's actually team members there. They live in the community. In most cases, they live the lifestyle. They know their customers by name. They remember what they bought last time they were in the store. And so it feels like a neighborhood kind of store where you're visiting with people that you've met before. They've got deep expertise in the categories that we serve. So if the customers have questions, need help with a project they're working on, just bought an animal that they haven't taken care of before, our team members can really help them with that. And then they're just very helpful. They're available. Like we've got team members all over the store. So it's not hard to track down and find somebody if you need the help. And our stores are smaller, so they're just easier to get around. And then the other really compelling differentiator is our stores are just convenient. In most of the markets, we grew up in rural America. We have a lot of stores in suburban America now too. But in many of the smaller towns, we're one of 2 or 3 retailers in town. And so you can find items from us that if we were not in town, you'd have to drive another 30, 40 miles away to get those items. And so we think the convenience factor is kind of a competitive differentiator. So when we start to think about which digital capabilities do we want to enable to help accelerate or amplify those differentiators, it really helps narrow the focus on things that we work on. So we spend a lot of time making sure our buy online, pick up in store functionality is world class. We have a mobile app that will help you in a variety of ways when you're in the store. We sell a lot of unique products. I'll give you an example. We resell propane. So if you need to refill a large propane tank, many customers will show up with a pickup truck and a large tank on the back of their truck. Instead of having to go into the store to find a team member to come help them refill that, they can just back right in to a refill station, use the mobile app to call a team member out, and a couple minutes later, you'll be refilling without really having to ever get out of your car. So again, it just re-amplifies kind of that convenience factor that we're trying to provide, legendary service, and really deliver kind of what we're known for.
Do you have any examples, Rick, that you can think of? Obviously, there's a lot of hype in certain technology cycles when it comes to e-com tech, especially over the last 3 or 4 years. Given your unique customer base, do you have any examples of things that you've doubled down on? Like you already mentioned buy online, pick up in store, and any things that you might have kind of passed on where you're like, hey, it's not my thing because it's not my base?
Yeah. So I'd say one of the things that we've really tried to lean into is kind of a test and learn mentality and try and get little feelers out there to understand if something's useful and then really go big on the stuff that's driving value and kind of in a no regrets fashion, throw away the stuff that just didn't resonate with our customer or didn't add value. I'll give you a simple example. And it's not like a revolutionary kind of technology thing. A lot of other retailers have it, but it was a good example of how we tiptoed our way into something that we had a hunch on, but didn't know if we wanted to go all in on. So when I was in the furniture space before here, a large portion of our sales were done through a sales chat functionality. So furniture is it's called a high consideration category, right? It's expensive. You don't buy it very frequently. In a lot of cases, the decision-making process is over a longer period of time. In some cases, you include experts. So in the furniture space, it might be like a interior designer to help tell you which items look good together or would look good in your space that you're trying to decide. We had a hunch in our space that this might also be useful. So we over-index on our website right now on high ticket, kind of bigger, heavier items that you buy pretty infrequently. A couple examples. We sell a lot of gun safes. We do really well in zero-turn mowers and tractor riders. We sell UTVs and golf carts. So lots of things that are pretty expensive. You're probably only going to buy them once every 5 years or so. And you might need a little bit of extra help. So we could have just gone out and invested in chat functionality, built a sales force or a team to man the chat and have a lot of kind of sunk costs in that without knowing if it was going to resonate with our customers. But we decided to take kind of this like test and learn approach. So the first thing we did was just add a button to the site on our high ticket kind of infrequent items that said, hey, do you need extra help? Click here and we can help you with that purchase. There was actually nothing behind it at the time. So when it clicked on it, it really said, hey, this feature's coming soon. We'll get back to you when it's live. But it gave us enough foresight on what was the demand going to be that we could say, wow, there's a lot of people clicking here. We should actually go do that. So the next phase was trying to think through like, how can we really scrappily get going to figure out like, what hours do you need to staff a call center team or a sales chat team? Most of our call centers are only open really during business hours today. And we were concerned that a lot of customers might be shopping off hours. And so that sales team wouldn't be able to support our needs. And so instead of going that route, we kind of staffed up a couple contract resources that were able to work remotely. They were basically on call whenever there was interaction on the website. We realized that almost all of the demand was after business hours. So it allowed us to really think through like, when do we need to staff people? Which categories do we need to arm them with expertise to answer questions? How do we give them tools to be able to answer those questions? So we're sort of in the process of scaling that now. And the next phase is really figuring out, there's a lot of AI technology that eventually is going to feel like a human and an authentic enough experience that it might replace the humans. But right now it doesn't. Most of the tools that we've seen in that space don't reach kind of the level of our expectation in terms of feeling like you're getting a real human and experience and feedback on how to shop a category. But it is super helpful for one of those sales reps to really get deep and expertise in a category that they haven't really worked in before. So if the customer's asking for recommendations on dog food for a pet that has certain medications, they can now query kind of our AI functionality, which will do a lot of research on their behalf and allow them to answer quickly for the customer which products meet their needs. I think over time, we'll probably lean into that or turn it on more for experiences that may not need the pure human touch. But anyway, probably a good example of how we're kind of leaning in on new technology and really trying to test and understand, like, is this worth us going all in before we really make those big investments?
Yeah, that's great context. And that was actually going to bring me to my next question around like, how are you looking at AI? Are you looking at it from the lens of how to make the client experience better? Are you looking at it like from internal tooling, staff aug, or maybe all of the above? Like, what do you think the kind of highest leverage application of AI is for someone in your role?
We've got a little bit of everything. And like, I think historically, I was always of the mindset, like, start with the business problem and then figure out the tech solution for it. And I think AI is one of those you need to do a little bit of both in parallel. Like, you got to get the ball rolling. You got to get your data right. You need technologists that actually understand how to leverage these new tools. And then you can start, based on that experience, kind of finding your way to problems that might be useful for, but you might not have thought of that as a potential solution. So I'll give you a couple examples across the different like domain areas that you mentioned. There's some that are like pure customer facing interactions, like the sales chat feature, I would say is kind of one of those. We have a in-store example. So we train our team members in the stores on this philosophy we call GURA. Basically, you greet the customer, understand their needs, recommend products that you think are best for them, and then ask if you can kind of close the sale and help them get out the door kind of thing. And so we have a tool. Most of our team members in the store wear a headset that's powered by this Hey GURA functionality. They can ask it all sorts of questions, everything from like, hey, the customer's asking for a recommendation on a gun safe or a lawnmower, and it will help make kind of interactive questions that you could ask the customer and then eventually narrow down to the type of item you're looking for. It can even help with things like scheduling or internal management tools for the team members. Then there are some pieces of functionality that are customer facing, but the customer might not realize. A good example there, we have a very unique set of categories that we play in. Many of the vendors that provide us products don't have world-class imagery and videos of their products that we can display on our website. So in a lot of cases, we will receive from them 1 or 2 photos of an item with a white background. And it's harder for a customer to take into account the dimensions of that product, what it looks like in real life, kind of picturing it easily on a PLP that they can see how that tool might be used or something like that. And so we're using Gen AI tools to basically apply lifestyle backgrounds and other backgrounds that would help a customer really picture that product in real life and also sort of differentiate some products from what you might buy at another retailer that are similar in nature, but ours are really customized for a person with a larger property or a different type of use. So that's kind of fun. And then the last, we have a lot of access to data internally, and our merchant teams or operations teams have very limited ability to tap into it to make better decisions. And so we're working on tools that help kind of diagnose, understand, and start to tee up opportunities or areas that if they were to focus their time, they should get a better return on that investment if they solve certain problems, because it's looked across the country and realized this out of stock is present in more stores than not. And so if you spent your time solving that one over one that's only unique to a store or two, or thinking about pricing issues and things like that, we're hoping it's going to help make much better decisions in less time so they can really crank through and run the business better.
Makes a lot of sense, Rick. And as we look to cap things off for today, are there any trends or technologies in the industry that you haven't explored yet that you're kind of eager to take a look at? I feel like, to your point, a lot of people are focusing on Gen I. Is there anything else that you've seen that kind of can address a core business problem?
Yeah, so we go to conferences quite often. We were just at the NRF conference, the big show up in New York City, and you can always kind of get a feel from the floor of like, what are the big new trends in the industry? This year really was all about AI. Like almost every company there had rebranded or found a way to integrate ChatGPT in some way to kind of demonstrate that they're thinking in that way. I don't know, like we mentioned, like we've got AI pilots, and in some cases we've scaled kind of them across various different parts of the business. So I feel like we're already well under the way there, and we're doing a really good job of finding ways to put our feelers out of where it might add value and really going big on the ones that we've already seen initial value. I think one of the biggest areas that really is untapped right now is thinking about how do we enable our internal team members to be more productive? Kind of that last bucket I mentioned earlier. We've got lots of people here at this, we call it the store support center, basically our home office, helping try and make decisions to empower the front line and the people that are running the stores. And we've got over 2,000 stores. We've got 50,000 items in the stores, 300,000 on the website. It's a big business to try and manage and really understand and prioritize where to spend your time. Historically, I think investments in that space were very underutilized. I think the business teams were very hesitant, and there was a lot of change management and buy-in that you needed to get merchants and operators to really think about using like analytics and recommendation tools. And I think we're seeing a lot of advancements and interest in that space that I think is really going to take off over the next couple of years.
Oh, love it. Well, Rick, really appreciate your insights. This was a fantastic episode, and thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
The E-Commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the E-Commerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.